Have you ever been in a situation where you wanted to say something in English, but the words just wouldn't come out? Maybe you were traveling, sitting in a cafe abroad, or even speaking with a foreign colleague. You knew exactly what you wanted to say in your mind, but when it was time to open your mouth, you froze. Instead of sounding confident, you stumbled, your face turned red, and you ended up using the same simple words again and again. That feeling of frustration is something every English learner knows too well. It makes you doubt yourself and sometimes even avoid speaking altogether. But here's the truth. The problem isn't you. The problem is the way most people try to learn English. They memorize endless grammar rules, force themselves to translate every sentence in their head, and get stuck worrying about mistakes instead of actually communicating. The result? They spend years studying but still can't speak fluently or naturally. That's why today I'm going to share with you the most effective way to absorb English naturally so you can start speaking fluently and confidently in no time. This isn't about boring textbooks or complicated theories. It's about training your brain the same way children do when they first learn their native language. And the secret is something called comprehensible input. Welcome back to the American English Podcast, the place where you don't just study English, you live it. If this is your first time tuning in, I'm so glad you found us. On this channel, we dive into real strategies, cultural insights, and powerful tips to help you speak English with confidence and fluency. And if you've been here before, thank you for joining me again. It means a lot. Today's topic is one that can truly transform your learning journey. Comprehensible input. You may have heard this term floating around in language learning communities, but what does it actually mean, and why is it so important? In simple terms, comprehensible input is the idea that the best way to acquire a language is to expose yourself to material you can mostly understand. Stories, conversations, podcasts, or even TV shows, where you catch the meaning even if you don't understand every single word. Think of it like this. When children learn their first language, they don't start with grammar books or vocabulary lists. They listen to people around them. They understand from context, and slowly they absorb the rhythm, the words, and the structures. Over time, they begin to speak naturally without even realizing how much they've learned. As adults, we can use the same approach to learn English faster and more effectively. Instead of forcing translations or memorizing long word lists, you can immerse yourself in content that feels natural, interesting, and understandable. The result? You train your brain to think in English rather than translate into English, and that is the real key to fluency. Now let's dig a little deeper and look at how comprehensible input actually works in real life. I want to share with you some real stories of learners who completely changed their English by using this method. Take Maria, for example. She was a student from Brazil who studied English for nearly 10 years in school. She could pass exams and write essays, but when it came to speaking, she froze. Every time she tried, she felt embarrassed and frustrated. One day, she decided to stop memorizing grammar rules and instead started listening to podcasts, watching YouTube videos, and reading short stories that were just slightly above her level, but still understandable. At first, she understood maybe 70%, but after a few weeks, her brain started connecting the dots. Suddenly, phrases like, "What do you mean?" or "That makes sense," just rolled off her tongue naturally. Or think of David, a software engineer from Vietnam. He told me that his biggest breakthrough came not from studying, but from watching American TV shows with subtitles. He didn't understand every word, but the context made it clear. Over time, he noticed that the way characters spoke, using idioms, contractions, and natural intonation, started to echo in his own conversations. He wasn't just translating anymore, he was thinking in English. The beauty of comprehensible input is that improvement happens gradually, almost without you realizing it. You don't need to force yourself to memorize hundreds of words in one night. Instead, the words and expressions you see and hear repeatedly become a natural part of your active vocabulary. It's like your brain is building an internal library, and the more you expose yourself to the language, the easier it becomes to access the right words at the right time. This approach isn't just effective, it's enjoyable. Learners who switch to comprehensible input often say they start looking forward to their English practice because it feels less like study and more like living the language. Imagine this. After months of frustration, hesitation, and fear of speaking, a learner finally has their breakthrough moment. Let's take Anna, a young professional from Poland. For years, she avoided speaking English at work because she was terrified of making mistakes. She thought her colleagues would laugh or judge her. But then she discovered the idea of comprehensible input and decided to give it a try. Instead of burying herself in grammar textbooks, she spent her evenings listening to English podcasts, reading simple news articles, and even singing along to songs where she could follow the lyrics. At first, progress was slow. She still stumbled over words. But one day, in a meeting with her international team, something incredible happened. Without thinking, she jumped in and gave her opinion in English. The words flowed naturally, the sentences connected smoothly, and for the first time, she wasn't translating in her head. She was speaking fluently and confidently. That moment, Anna later said, felt like magic, but in reality, it wasn't magic at all. It was the result of hundreds of hours of natural exposure, of training her brain with input she could understand. The climax of her story is the same transformation that thousands of learners experience when they trust the process. They stop worrying about every little mistake, and instead, they focus on meaningful communication. This is the power of comprehensible input. It takes you from being a hesitant learner, afraid to open your mouth, to someone who can express themselves freely, confidently, and without fear. And the best part? Once you reach this point, speaking English stops feeling like a chore. It becomes a natural part of who you are. That moment when fluency finally clicks is unforgettable. So now the big question is, how can you start using comprehensible input in your own life? The good news is it's simpler than you think. You don't need fancy tools or expensive courses. You just need to surround yourself with English that is slightly above your current level, but still understandable. Here are some practical steps you can take right away. Choose the right content. Pick materials that are interesting to you: podcasts, YouTube videos, TV shows, or short stories. If you're bored, you won't stay consistent. The key is that you should understand about 70 to 80% of what you hear or read. Use subtitles wisely. If you're watching a show or video, try English subtitles instead of your native language. This helps you connect the sounds with the written words and makes phrases stick faster. Listen and read every day. Even 15 minutes a day can make a huge difference. Think of it like brushing your teeth. It's small, but it builds up over time. Don't focus too much on grammar. Grammar will come naturally as you get more exposure. When you hear the same patterns again and again, your brain starts to recognize what sounds right. Repeat and recycle. Don't be afraid to watch or listen to the same content multiple times. Each time, you'll notice new details and the language will sink in deeper. Many learners make the mistake of aiming for perfection before they even speak. But the reality is, if you build a habit of daily comprehensible input, your fluency will grow naturally without forcing it. This process is about consistency, not perfection. Let's take a step back and look at what we've uncovered today. We started with a very real struggle. Let's take a step back and look at what we've uncovered today. We started with a very real struggle, wanting to speak English but feeling stuck, nervous, or frustrated. Then, we introduced the game-changing idea of comprehensible input, learning through material that you can mostly understand, just like how children naturally acquire their first language. Through real examples, we saw how learners like Maria, David, and Anna made dramatic progress once they embraced this method. Instead of forcing translations or memorizing endless grammar rules, they surrounded themselves with meaningful, understandable English. Slowly but surely, their brains adjusted, their vocabulary expanded, and their fluency grew until speaking became natural. The key takeaway is simple but powerful. Fluency isn't built overnight. It doesn't come from memorizing 1,000 words in 1 week or drilling grammar rules until you're exhausted. Fluency is built step by step, through consistent daily exposure to English you can understand and enjoy. That's what comprehensible input provides. It gives you a way to learn that feels natural, effective, and sustainable. And here's the most encouraging part. This method works for everyone. You don't have to be a genius, and you don't need to spend hours every day. Even 10 to 20 minutes of focused input can lead to real change over time. If you commit to it, you'll start noticing those little wins, the moment when you suddenly understand a movie scene without subtitles, or when a phrase just comes out of your mouth effortlessly. So remember, the path to fluency isn't about perfection. It's about progress. Every podcast you listen to, every video you watch, every story you read, it all counts. Step by step, you're training your brain to think and respond in English, and that's exactly what will make you fluent and confident. Before we wrap up today's episode, I want to leave you with one final thought. Fluency isn't a dream that's out of reach. It's something you can achieve if you stay consistent, stay curious, and commit to using comprehensible input in your daily life. The more you expose yourself to English that you can understand, the more natural it will feel, and the more confident you'll become when it's time to speak. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever tried using comprehensible input in your learning journey? Maybe you've watched TV shows with subtitles, or you've listened to podcasts that challenged you just enough to keep you engaged. What worked for you? And what's been your biggest struggle when it comes to speaking English fluently? Share your experience in the comments. I read every single one, and your story might inspire someone else who's on the same path. And of course, if you found today's episode helpful, don't forget to subscribe to the American English Podcast. That way, you won't miss any of our future episodes where we share more practical tips, cultural insights, and strategies to help you level up your English. Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and join our growing community of learners from all over the world. Finally, if you're ready to take the next step, check out the next video on this channel where we'll dive even deeper into strategies that make English learning feel natural and fun. Trust me, you don't want to miss it. Thank you so much for tuning in today, and remember, fluency isn't about perfection. It's about progress. Keep going, keep exposing yourself to comprehensible input, and I promise the results will come. See you in the next episode.